Hey guys, it's Rich with Day 8 of the 40-Day Empowerment Journey. Lesson 8 is I cannot save another, not even the one who calls me mother. I must learn to see you as separate from me, with your own distinct identity. This lesson goes hand in hand with yesterday's of being silent and knowing how to discern when to be silent. I kind of think of this verse in the way of the Facebook quote out there, "Not my circle, not my monkeys." I absolutely love that quote. It speaks of empowering you to know when it's none of your business. It helps you notice when you have no control over it, when you don't need to have control over it, and it empowers you to just have that discernment, to sit back and notice when you're needed, but also when you're not. I've noticed this in my own life. I'm usually the fixer. I like to fix people. I like to help them out in any way I can, and I certainly will when asked, to the best of my ability. However, putting in my 2 cents when it's not asked for or needed is something that I've had to step back and realize. I don't need to be somebody's savior. I don't need to be the knight in shining armor. Sometimes, and I think oftentimes, there's a lesson in there for them as well as for you. It teaches you patience. It may teach them some incredible hard lesson with some major life struggles that they may have to go through. They may make bad decisions and they may make good decisions, but that is their path. And that is their struggles that they have to figure out. Now, if they ask you for help and they ask for suggestions, they don't necessarily have to take it. And you can certainly give it, or you can say, "No, I'm not going to give advice on this," or "I do not have an opinion on this subject." So with this lesson, you are empowered to sit back and notice how strong other people are. And not only that, how much strength you have in your own self. How much strength you possess to not interfere with somebody else's struggles, pains, and trials that they may go through. Not your circus, not your monkeys. So how do we actually put this into practice? How is it that somebody that is always a fixer, like I love to be, how do people like me, or how do we sit there and say, "Not my circus, not my monkeys"? It's certainly not ever easy, especially whenever you want to jump in and micromanage things. It's really not easy. But I've learned that sometimes people will surprise you. At work, I was recently put into a position of a shift supervisor, a role I didn't really want and I never really had before. Although I've had that job for like a day or two, I've never had it as a full-time job. So it's kind of odd for me. But today, looking on today's lesson, I said to myself, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to see what happens if I don't do anything. And in fact, one person really surprised me. One member of my shift, he kind of took charge. He's going to be a staff sergeant as I am very soon. So he really came into earning that rank. He came into his own way of running a shift that I didn't know if he was ready for. He really surprised me. And it took me sitting back and observing, being in the silence, being in the moment, breathing, as I'm sure I'm going to be referencing to the previous lessons time and time again. It took me realizing in the silence and not speaking up that he actually had what it took to do the job that he will one day have to do full time. Now, when all this was going on, I was keeping a watchful eye, because after all, the responsibility would still fall on me. It was still my circus. They were still my monkeys. But I kept a watchful eye, but in the silence. I chose to only help when needed, or asked, or out of sheer boredom, just to help out just a little bit, as if I was one of his workers. It's really surprising what people can do when we sit back and tell them we're not going to help them. And we empower ourselves to sit there and do nothing. We let them discover themselves as we discover ourselves, and where we all sit in this grand cosmic scheme. So with that is your day 8 lesson of the 40-day empowerment journey. In the bottom bar, as usual, you can find the verse of the day along with a link to the poem in its entirety, as well as some of Chell's other poetry. So go ahead and go check that out. Tomorrow we go on to day 9. Until then, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.